Hello everyone, my name is Colton Vickers and I did my trail assessment project on Silver Falls State Park in Sublimity, Oregon. First, I'd like to discuss where Silver Falls State Park is located. It is located in Sublimity, Oregon and is easily accessible from I-5 and Highway 22. It is 20 minutes from Highway 22 and 35 minutes from the town of Silverton. Now, some history of the park. The first inhabitants of what we know as Silver Falls State Park was the Kalapuya and Malala natives. But then, the native populations dropped in this region by 1840s due to European settlers bringing diseases in which the natives did not have strong immune systems to combat. Then, by 1883, the first U.S. homesteaders came. Some of the first buildings that the homesteaders built still stand in the park today. By 1880, there were over 200 residents in what was known as the Silver Falls City. There were 3 general stores, a hotel, church, dance hall, tavern, blacksmith, houses with barns and other buildings, and several sawmills. But then, several decades later, the town fell due to the Great Depression suppressing the local economy, which relied on the timber industry. Many residents left thereafter. Silver Falls became a park in July 23rd, 1933. The Civilian Conservation Corps built buildings, trails, bridges, retaining walls, and other park infrastructure after the park opened, and you can still see them today. We will now take a look at some of the recreational opportunities offered at Silver Falls State Park. Hiking, mountain bike riding, horseback riding, camping, picnicking, swimming, plant and wildlife viewing, play structures for kids, group activities, a cafe, and a gift shop are just some of the main recreational opportunities offered at Silver Falls State Park. I will now introduce to you the methods of my assessment. I gathered information through on-site observations, photographs, internet research, visitor pamphlets provided by the park, and speaking to park visitors and staff, which included volunteers and the Park Service. Continuing with my methods, the information I gathered helped me assess the environmental conditions, the social conditions, and managerial conditions of the park. I would like to take some time out of the presentation to give a special thanks to the Oregon State Park Ranger, Carl, and the volunteer staff members, MJ and Brian, who helped me gather information regarding my assessment of Silver Falls State Park. First, we'll look at the positive environmental conditions of the park. Tree health was phenomenal, and there was no dead vegetation visible off trails, and spring had definitely sprung in this region as every tree was very green. Water quality was very clean due to the mountain runoff. The trails were safe, especially parts near cliffs. Restoration efforts were in place. There were hydration systems to navigate water runoff and mitigate erosion of the forest floor and trails. There were evidence of wildlife throughout the park, and because of the many waterfalls and the ability to walk behind some, the park is very aesthetically pleasing. Here are some photos I took of the positive environmental conditions, a flowering plant, and restoration practices in play in the bottom right-hand corner. In this side, you'll see many pictures of wildlife I ran into while on my hike, and you'll also see irrigation systems in place. And of course, the aesthetically pleasing mini waterfalls Silver Falls State Park offers. Now I will describe the negative environmental conditions in which I found. Erosion, irrigation systems clogged, trail braiding, short-cutting, and trampled vegetation were just some of the few negative conditions. And here I put in a quote from Ranger Carl which says, "Negative is easy because we see it." In these next 3 slides, I will be showing you pictures I took of the negative environmental conditions. These included erosion, trail braiding, short-cutting, and trampling of vegetation. These photos do not represent the park as a whole, these were just select areas off the trail. My next finding was positive social conditions. I received most of my information on these conditions through online reviews, and here you can see what people had to say. Relating to why the park is loved, Ranger Carl said that it's because of how diverse the park is for everyone. Visitors are drawn to the park because of word of mouth, aesthetics, opportunity, cost-effective, close to home, and education. And personally, my time spent at the park from a little kid to now, I have seen a general behavior and atmosphere of happy throughout the entire park. Looking into the negative social conditions of the park, many users had conflicts with multi-use trails and speed, such as mountain bikers and horseback riders or runners and walkers. Conflicts also included Bluetooth speakers, crowding, pets, and litter. And below, you'll see some one-star reviews I found online from park users. While hiking through the park, I also saw visitors waiting in line to walk to the bottom of the fall for pictures. This area was quite crowded, while the rest of the trails were not. In the bottom right-hand picture, you'll see one of 4 locations where I saw discarded orange peels on the ground. Also, while on my hike assessing the park, I found cans and bottles that were scattered in bushes off the trail, but they were too far and unsafe for me to grab them. Lastly, I looked at managerial conditions. The park is primarily managed by Oregon State Park Service and uses both direct and indirect management strategies. Their direct strategies restrict activities such as campfires when fire danger is too high, dogs on certain trails, enforce park rules and policies with fines and mandatory user fees. Their indirect strategies consist of site hardening and softening, bridges, stone stairs on trails, railings and benches, restoration efforts, signage, and facilities such as bathrooms, gift shop, a cafe, covered picnic areas, a lodge with a fireplace, ranger station nearby, and educational programs. Since Silver Falls is managed by the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department, this is their mission statement: to provide and protect outstanding natural, scenic, cultural, historic, and recreational sites for the enjoyment and education of present and future generations. The agency's goals from now and until 2022 will focus on protecting special places, providing great experiences, and taking the long view. A deeper explanation of their specific goals can be found at this URL. The Oregon Parks and Recreational Department also has agency personnel goals, which include inclusiveness, vendors and concessions, and branding and merchandising. Continuing with managerial conditions, the park prefers indirect and educational management. Ranger Carl said that he creates spokespeople out of users, create other people who want to protect the land that we are here to protect. There are many signs throughout the park to educate visitors about the environment, history, and concerns management has. The park has plans and goals for the future. Management tries not to take away activities or opportunities, they just see where they can add. Currently, they are thinking about removing a volleyball pit not being used, as visitors usually bring their own portable ones. In the future, they would like to work with Salem Trail Alliance to build new trails. Recent legislation has created more job opportunities to become a ranger. Even with new legislation, manpower is the largest issue, often having to hire inmate crews to help clean, and the ratio of park visitors to rangers is widening every single year. After considering all the environmental, social, and managerial conditions, these are my recommendations for the park in the future. For environmental conditions, I suggest that they improve degraded trails, increase more direct hardening techniques on trail braided areas, and widening trails for overcrowding issues. Widening trails for overcrowding would also address negative social conditions. Lastly, I recommend that Silver Falls also maintains their current infrastructure. I think they should fix and open historic buildings for viewing, as some are closed down or locked up. They should also provide another set of bathrooms, as they only have one water-piped bathroom in the park. And lastly, I recommend they repair the main parking lot, as there are many cracks and is very unaesthetically pleasing compared to the rest of the park. And they should reconstruct the trailhead parking as it is very crowded as well. Overall, this is an absolutely amazing park, and none of the negative environmental, social, or managerial conditions outweigh the positives. The park is very much alive, attracts a very diverse group of recreationalists, and under managerial care that applies strategies thoughtfully but deliberately and proactively.